evening, folks. I am Captain Blade J52, and welcome to another edition of the Pilot Review Show. I am joined this evening by my good friend, Artie.
Hello.
So, we might have a resident wolf of the Timber Clan joining us a little bit later, depending on if he's been flea dipped and dried off from his flea bath and all that fun stuff. But, anyways, we do have a few fun things to get through for you guys this week, so let's go ahead and dive into our articles, starting with Q's Winter Wonderland.
Yep, alright. So, as it says here, 'tis the season, puny mortals. So, as some of you may know, Q decided to drop by for the month of December to give us a whole bunch of holiday cheer and giving us a whole bunch of snow. So, in this one, you get the chance for the winter event ship, which is the Fikiri Store warship, which we'll cover in a little bit. As you may know, the way to get this, you get the vouchers from the daily fastest game on ice, where you basically go around in a lap in the center, near center of the map, basically having to beat an NPC at a race, and it's a nice little thing. So. Moving on from the ship itself, you do get some new winter outfits, some glossy jackets, which look a whole new design compared to their previous ones. Very more up to date with their current looks and all that. Along with that, we get new ugly sweaters, as some may put it, Discovery sweaters, as well as a new Borg sweater. And besides that, we also get a new nanopulse batleth with all this, so that's all fun. Let's see, I'm trying to find the date. This starts the 4th? Yes, this starts the 4th. And it would basically go on till all of December, basically, right? Up until the beginning of the new year, I believe. Yeah, so. I don't see the date here for the end time, but basically, yeah, that's when it starts, and it starts December 4th. So back to, as I'm bouncing around on all of this, back to some of the cool items that you get. So we get the new nanopulse batleth, which you see a little GIF of it being used in the article. Very nice.
Looks like he's pulling out a double-bladed lightsaber and about to kick some rear
end.
Yeah,
it looks like it's taken a new look of the Klingon batleth from Discovery, where it's, instead of going outward curve, it's an inward curve. So it's a very different design. I like it compared to the previous nanopulse batleths. Let's see. Beyond that, we also get Torment of the Underworld. Torment, the primary target with a torturous vision of dark underworlds. Basically, you give whatever you're targeting psionic damage, and it affects both. If I'm reading this right, I'll just read it here. The illusion of psionic impressions of this strong enough words.
You know, I
yeah, I know, right? All right. The illusions and psionic impressions of this are strong enough to affect allies of the foes unfortunate to be caught in the area. I think that's whatever. All affected enemies will suffer periodic psionic damage while also having their damage output reduced. So basically, if you're stuck in the circle, if the enemy is stuck in the circle, they're taking damage and not giving much damage. So that's good. Let's see. Collective nightmares. Enemies affected by this by the device will be confused, vulnerable, and unable to differentiate friend from foe due to cerebral sensory interception. Adding to sensory confusion, some humanoid enemies will appear as Fikiri by the way of psionic perception inhibitors. This ability only affects living foes and cannot interfere with the electronics or other forms of artificial life. So basically, whatever enemies that you use this on, they look like Fikiri and will attack their allies. And then we get Ravaging Barrage. Harass foes and a forward cone, a periodic pulse of psionic energy. The strength of these pulses is enough to force foes off their feet, and those prone may find themselves unable to stand for a short period of time. So from what it seems like, that one's more similar to the micro-photon torpedo launcher and the chronoton torpedo launcher that you have on ground. But instead of it as a torpedo just to do a bunch of knockback, it's a forward-firing cone. Yeah, that's interesting. Last but most certainly not least, Q has decided to release a new form of Crampferi minions for use among us mortals as temporary companions. This will be in the form of the tortured elf vanity pet, which you'll see an image of it. Basically looks like your normal Fakiri with holiday-ish design to the hat. Let's see. This charming fellow will only be allowed to follow you around the galaxy while the Winter Wonderland is accessible. Attempting to summon him thereafter will simply put in a puff of coal smoke and a forlorn red cap. Ouch. So basically, if you summon him anytime besides when the Wonderland is active, you just get this red cap just lazily laying on the ground. My goodness. But yeah, Q's Wonderland will be returning for both PC and console December 4th. And we come full circle on all this information. I'm excited. Can't wait to test out that new ship and all that. That's exciting.
I want the ship, and I want that weapon on the ground, because, well, it looks like a double-bladed lightsaber, and that ravaging barrage looks like he's firing a one-handed Gallic gun out of his hand.
Oh, yeah.
And I know somebody out there in our viewers is thinking the same thing. I'm just the guy that said it. Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff coming with this. We'll have the blog in the description of the video for you guys, so you can check that out and get psyched up for the winter event. But moving along, speaking of ships, we finally have our Fakiri warship here. It's the Fakiri Sator warship. I probably butchered the name.
Who knows?
But yeah, this will be the ship we're getting on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 all at the same time. Now, it's going to be a faction-neutral ship, so that means any faction can use it. All you've got to do is complete the event and claim the ship. So it's going to have a Lieutenant Commander Universal / pilot seat, as well as a very interesting console, which is the Chains of Fire. Then, for our stats on the ship, this is what we've got. It's starting off, you can claim it at level 40. It's going to give you 33,000 hull at 40, 44,000 at 60. And then you've got a shield modifier of 1. It's a 4-4 layout, 3 device slots. Its bridge officer stations are a Commander Tactical, an Ensign Tactical, Lieutenant Engineering, Lieutenant Commander Science, and Lieutenant Commander Universal / Pilot. Then for your consoles, you've got 5 Tactical, 3 Engineering, 3 Science. It's a base turn rate of 16. Can equip dual cannons. Gives a plus 15 to weapon power, 5 to engines. Get the Chains of Fire console. It gives us the Destroyer Mastery package, which is going to give us some accuracy, crit sev, crit chance, and kinetic / energy damage. And then we get the trait of the Maw of Grethor. And the Chains of Fire, basically in a nutshell, to give you guys an idea of how it's going to look and how it's going to behave, is somewhat like a modified version of tractor repulsors, except in reverse. It says it comes equipped with the Chains of Fire console, and this powerful console blasts nearby foes with fire when activated. It then latches onto the affected ships, dealing fire damage as it drags them along with you for a short duration. provides a passive boost to fire damage, impulse thrusters, and control expertise. And it says the console may be equipped on any starship at any slot. However, you may only equip one of the consoles. So this is another one of those items that can be equipped on any ship. Then, for the trait, upon reaching level 5 in your Fakiri Sator warship, you will unlock the Maw of Grethor starship trait. With this trait, while it is slotted, going at full throttle while in combat will shoot giant bursts of flame behind your ship, dealing fire damage both initially and over time to all foes affected. And then, one thing I do like that they included in the blog is you could click on the thumbnail and see the different vanity shield options that we have in game.
Which, as an RPer, looking at a lot of those visuals, oh my goodness, they need to do that more often.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's looking like it's going to be interesting. They did say the trait itself, as far as the fire, it's going to be kind of, from the way I understood it anyway, proportional to the ship. So if you're somebody like me that flies a lot of big ships, occasionally like cruisers and occasionally the Enterprise J, then you're not just going to have like this little tiny flame behind you. It's going to be like an actual fireball behind you.
Yeah, just going to get that Jupiter carrier blowing in, got that firestorm carrying behind.
Yep.
I do gotta ask though, isn't this like one of the first times we're really seeing fire damage in space?
It actually is. We've got a lot of sources of radiation damage. We've got a lot of sources of cold damage now. We've got a lot of EPG type effects as well. And we've not really had anything as far as fire damage goes. That's one of the things that's been lacking. Now, we've seen fire damage in game before, but it's mostly been something you encounter on the ground. Like, I know a lot of the science modules, like, I think it's exothermic induction.
I think that's the right one, yeah.
Module. I don't remember the exact name without looking. But that's one of the things that throws fire damage, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And if it does well, we may have another type of damage to play with in space. And also, I don't know if any of y'all can hear that in the background, but it is currently actually a storm overhead as we're broadcasting. And I don't foresee anything happening, but just as a heads up, if it does kick me off, then you guys know what happened. But
yeah.
So that's some of what we've got going for the ship. I know they showed it off on the live stream, and I think you guys are going to really, really enjoy this ship. At least I know I've got a lot of plans for it myself. But yeah, if you're looking for a hot rod in space, then this is pretty much it.
I would recommend just going ahead and showing the clip of the video, in case people haven't seen it.
Can we?
I mean, I'm pretty sure we can. Right there. Look at that fire.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for those of you that wanted to see it.
I kind of imagine it like, and from what I can tell from most Starship lore for Star Trek, there's a lot of energy going through the warp core and a lot of excess energy that needs to go out. And that's usually just re-bypassed into, whatever power network they have on one of the ships. From how it looks there, I'm sure someone could totally go, oh, that fire through the front, that's totally the warp core. They're just throwing the excess energy out into space just right there like a hot rod.
Pretty
much. It just looks amazing.
Yeah, that's the little video clip that they give us for that. So you can kind of see it now. I know they have some of the metal music playing, which if you want a metal ship, then here you go. It doesn't get much more metal than
Blade,
this.
Most ships are made out of metal.
And folks, do you see what I have to put up with? But anyways, like I say, definitely check this out. Be sure to check out the video that they had done on the live stream. They show a lot more details, go into detail about the ship, how they made it, and some very fun stuff. But anyways, moving along, we have another event going on for Cryptic, and this is the 2018 Extra Life event that they're doing.
Yep, it's also that time of year again, December 8th and 9th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. Cryptic is coming together with Extra Life charity gaming and decided to show off quite a few of the games, playing around, and basically gathering funds for the charity event for Extra Life. More or less, they'll be playing through many of their games, Star Trek Online. They'll be also doing things like the Champions Tabletop, Bridge Crew with many of the various developers, I believe it is. As well as going through another live stream of Star Trek Adventures Pathfinder. Their schedule's on the link. I won't go through all the details, so you can go through that. But more or less, you can go through this, watch, and actually win prizes by more or less going with the event. More or less, I'll just read what we got here. So prizes, for just by tuning in, being your wonderful selves, and getting the chance to donate to a great cause, you can win some incredible prizes from many of our partners. Here's a full list of what we'll be giving away during the show. Solid state drives from Mushkin, Dungeons and Dragons miniatures from Wizard of the Coast, 3 copies of Art and Arcana, a chronicle of Dungeons and Dragons history, which that's pretty nice grab there. 15 Hydro 74 posters, 3 Steel Series Arctis 3 headsets, 5 Steel Series Arctis 5 headsets, in-game codes for all of the games, which would be, Star Trek Online, Champions, and Neverwinter, and additional prizes from Boniface, WizKids, and more. It also shows you who are you helping by donating to the grand cause, which be more or less 2 world-class pediatric hospitals. Words. A lot of passion to healing and innovation for many of the children, and families are struck by certain diseases and whatnot, and just a whole wide range of wide range of things to donate to. Sorry, I'm losing my words here. But yes, that's more or less there. Below that, you get more detail into the scheduling, such as Star Trek Online with who, but Ambassador Kale. So you get to basically hang out with Ambassador Kale at 10 a.m. Saturday, and basically get the, as I like to say, bug him at his play style. But he's a great guy. Don't worry. And then you also get to catch up with a lot of the other developers of their various other games and whatnot. But no, this would be a fun community event to help out with a very deep and large charity event, as well as getting to know some of the developers of Cryptic. So that's pretty fun there. Yeah.
I like how they put that in the blog. Will Kale lose his mind before the end? Most likely. Will there be special guests? Of course there will.
Yeah, I think they put that in just for some of us players out there, because, as soon as there's a bug out there, someone's getting hair pulled.
Yeah, it looks like they've definitely got a good selection of events lined up. Highly encourage you guys to check that out. And donate to a good cause if you're willing and able to do so.
Is
Yeah.
there
This is something...
is there
Go ahead.
anything you're excited to watch? I'm personally excited to see how they do in their Star Trek Bridge crew.
I kind of want to see that as well, actually, because it's something that I've heard a lot about, and been kind of curious to try, but I've not really seen much action with it. If that makes any
Oh no,
sense.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
VR as well as
Yeah.
that type of gaming style is kind of difficult to grasp onto unless you've been dealing
Yeah.
with VR since it first came out.
Yeah, that, and then the bits of the Magic the Gathering Commanders. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see who taps out and who scrubs out, and who's going to be the one to take it all, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's a good selection of stuff. Be sure to check that out. This is always a good thing to see that they do. They've been doing for a couple of years now. So go out and check them out on December the 8th and December the 9th. It's going to be a good thing to see. And a very great event to support. But anyway, that's what we have for the articles this evening. Let me figure out what I did with the budget build page.
It's on your left.
And here it is. And drag it in from off screen here. Alright, so for our budget build this evening, and let me see if I can turn my AC back on now that, or at least the fan part of it, because it gets blazing hot in this room if I don't have at least the fan going. Okay, big lightning strike. Yep, not a good idea.
Someone's telling you that using that, AC is not a great idea, but whatever.
Yeah, big old lightning strike right as soon as I do that. It's like, yep, nope, just nope. But yeah, anyway, so for our budget build this evening, now, we've done a couple of builds on this particular ship in the past. However, we've not really gotten to do one since the Tier 6 reps have come into play. So, for a lot of you out there who are very fond of this little ship, it is the Ouroboros Temporal Raider. And this is one of the 31st century ships. Now, the good thing about this is it is a faction-neutral ship. The Klingons, the Romulans, the Feds, or whoever is capable of calling on this ship if they want to fly it. Now, for this particular ship, it is it's an actual raider, meaning it's going to get the raider flanking. Now, it is a 4-2 layout, so most of the weapons are up front. Now, for this particular ship, for its weapons, we went with a phaser loadout, and you're going to see why we're running phasers in just a minute when we get to the consoles and some of the good stuff we've got for this particular ship. But up front, we have 4 of the phaser dual banks. You can pick these up from one of the story missions that we've outlined in the notes. In the rear of the ship, we also have the trilithium enhanced omni beam, and we also have a heavy biomolecular phaser turret. Now I'm starting to lose words. But the heavy biomolecular phaser turret, and that's going to lend to one of our set bonuses that we're going to be taking advantage of. Now, for the shields, the engines, the deflector, and the warp core, these are all items you've seen here on the show quite a bit, and some very great items on the budget end to call upon, in my personal opinion. Now, there's actually 2 ways you could potentially, that I'd outlined in this build, 2 ways you could take it. And the one that we have here is a more defensive route, as far as some of the set items that it's using. So for the shields, the engines, and the deflector, we have the we have the soul defense set. I was thinking of the warp core, getting a little bit ahead of myself. But for the deflector, the engines, and the shields, like I was saying, we have the Soul Defense set. Now, what is so special about the Soul Defense set is for the 2-set bonus, you get a free neutronium alloy armor's worth of resistances without actually having to slot a neutronium. So that's going to give you free defensive value to the ship. And then the 3-set bonus is a very potent heal whenever you need it. And on ships like this especially, it can bring your ship from nearly dead almost, if not all the way outright back to full health. So that's a very great thing to have there. Then for the warp core, we went with the temporal phase overcharged core. This is one we featured quite a bit here on the show because, in our opinion, it is very hard to top this core on the budget level, just because of the effect that it gives you. Now, this warp core on the budget end is going to give you the free equivalent of a temporal negotiator type effect. It's going to cut your bridge officer cooldowns in half for the duration of the capacitor. Now, one thing we did say for the other mode is if you think your defenses are enough, one thing you could consider doing is maybe going for the 3-piece Bajor defense set, which is going to give you a bit of extra damage to your phasers. Now, this ship does come with a heavy weapons slot, or an experimental slot, so this is going to be a weapon that you can pick up. Now, the one that it typically gives you for free is the hyper-excited ion stream projector. Now, I don't like, and here on the show we don't really like assuming which heavy weapons people might have access to. But if you just want to use the basic free one, it'll do you very decently enough for now. Or you could consider picking up the heavy weapon out of the competitive war games as another viable alternative. Now, for devices, you have 2 slots here. Now, we always like to think of devices as personal preference. However, one that we do like to recommend to people is the Subspace Field Modulator. This comes from the Skirmish mission and will give a free neutronium alloy armor worth of resistance while it's active. However, it does debuff you for a minus 400 protonic damage resistance rating. So that is one thing to be aware of there. But like I say, there's not that many enemies that use protonic damage resistance, so it can be a double-edged sword depending on who you're facing, but more often than not, you're not going to need to worry about it. Some other devices you might consider would be energy amplifier batteries, Javanite hardpoints, stuff along those lines. But anyways, for our consoles, we have 3 engineering, 3 science, and 5 tactical. For our engineering consoles, we have the Trillium deplating from the Ragnarok mission. This is going to be essentially a field generator and a neutronium slammed into one, so it's going to give a bit of damage resistance as well as giving a bit of shield capacity. Then the other console we have is our reinforced armaments, which is going to complete our trilithium 2-piece. We'll take a look at in just a second. And that's going to basically give us a bit of EPS, or free power gen, so to speak, or regen, I should say. And then finally we have the console that actually comes with the ship, which is the Tactical System Stabilizer. And I'll explain the core of why we're using some of these items when we look at the set bonuses. Then for the science consoles, we have our quantum phase converter. This is part of the quantum phase set, and what makes this so good is it's going to essentially be a 5th tactical console of sorts. It gives a free tactical console's worth of phaser damage. Then we also have our assimilated module. This is going to give a bit of control expertise, but the most important things are the crit chance and crit severity that it's going to give us here.
Oh, we're losing you a little bit.
Then we are a little bit.
Yeah, you're getting kind of robotic and the stream was hiccuping.
We'll give that just a moment or two to clear up. Alright, how about now? Does it sound good? Stabilized? Or
Yeah, There you go. That should be fine for now.
Okay, so slight interruptions due to the storm overhead, folks. I apologize for that. If it, I'll try to clean that up in post if it gets too weird. But anyways, like I was saying about the assimilated module, it's going to give a bit of control expertise, which is going to be nice to have. But the biggest things that it's going to give us are the critical chance and severity. So that's the big stuff that we're going to be calling on here for this. Then we have our temporal disentanglement suite. And our temporal disentanglement suite is going to give us quite a few things. It's going to give us a bit of shield capacity. It's also going to be giving us a bit of critical chance and severity dependent on our aux power level. And it's also going to give us a bit of shield resistance, or which basically chalks up to shield damage resistance. So this is going to be an all-around great console to have, even if we're not utilizing it in a Tetrion build, which is typically what this console can sometimes be associated with. Then, for our tactical consoles, we have the multi-conduit energy relay. Now this buffs disruptor and phaser a little bit, but it's also tied in to one of our set bonuses that we'll look at in a moment. And then finally we have our phaser tactical relays, which or our phaser relays, I should say, for our tactical consoles, and that's what we've got for the equipment on the ship. Now, the overall goal of the ship is basically to cheese a bit of haste and to cheese some damage because of some of the items we have that we can work with on the ship itself. You can see here on our console, we've got a bit of energy weapon training, so that's going to be free energy damage. Then we have some tactical readiness. That's going to improve our tactical cooldowns quite a bit. And again, this is the console that comes with the ship. Now, whenever you activate it, you get a 5% recharge time reduction on bridge officer abilities every 3 seconds for 30 seconds, and you get a 30% firing cycle haste for energy weapons for 30 seconds. And then it's only a 2-minute cooldown. Now, how this plays into some of our other set bonuses is we're going to be calling on our Trilithium set here. Our Trilithium 2-piece is going to give a 5% firing cycle haste for our energy weapons. That's going to be active all the time. And then, if we proc off of our weapon itself, you have a 2.5% chance to get an additional 10% firing cycle haste for 15 seconds. So potentially the Trilithium set is worth about 15% firing cycle haste, and then comboed with the console whenever it's active, you're looking at potentially a 45% firing cycle haste for your energy weapons, which is a very big deal, and that's going to add up very, very quickly. And then once you get more towards the higher end type of builds, and where you can access even more amounts of haste, it just gets ridiculous from there. Finally, we have our 2 set for our biomolecular weapons, and this gets into one of the big things that is going to do a lot of good for our build. Since we're running phaser damage, we can call on one of the biomolecular turrets, and we could call on the multi-conduit energy relay and get a pretty hefty 7.5% bonus phaser damage in this instance. So this is a category 2 bonus, meaning it's going to give a heck of a lot more than our standard bonuses are going to give. Now, what is so significant about category 1 and category 2 damage? Category 1 typically buffs your base damage, something like a tactical console does. Whereas Category 2 comes in after the fact and takes into account everything as a whole. And all it does is it basically looks at, okay, what's their damage at right now with all the buffs in place. Okay, here's 7.5% extra in a nutshell. So this is going to be quite a bit of haste and quite a bit of phaser damage that we're going to be able to pull out of this particular little ship. Now, as far as our skills go, it's pretty much our standard skill set. for our builds. I'm not going to go into details as to why we picked each specific skill, otherwise we could be here for at least another 30 minutes.
And nobody wants
that. Nah, I'm sure they get tired of hearing me talk after a while. But we do have a video that we'll be able to give you guys that want it, for people that are looking for the technical aspects of why we picked the certain skills that we did. For those people that are just kind of curious as to the skill setup itself, it's our standard skill setup: 14 engineering, 14 science, 18 tactical. You can kind of see the lieutenant rank skills here a little bit, and then our lieutenant commander. Then we have our commander rank skills, and then our captain rank skills. Then finally we have our admiral rank skills. And one thing I will point out is the tactical readiness from your console will stack with the tactical readiness we have in the skill tree. So that's going to mean that most of your tactical powers are going to be at global. If not, they're going to be pretty darn close in terms of cooldowns. Then for our specializations, we have intelligence primary, miracle worker secondary. So we wanted something to give a bit of extra punch to the ship and also balance it out with a bit of healing potential. Then finally for our bridge officers, this is one of the ships where you actually have a truly universal ship. Every one of the stations on the ship is a universal seat. Now you only get 4 seats, but the fact that all 4 of them are universal is a pretty big deal. You get a Commander Universal / Temp Ops, 2 Lieutenant Commander Universals, and a Lieutenant Universal / Temp Ops in this instance. Now, for the Commander seat, we made that into a Tactical. And we went with a Tactical Team 1, which is going to redirect our shields when we need to. We went with a Scatter Volley, so we can take advantage of our turret and allow it to smack things in range with the beams. Or smack targets in range, I mean. And then we have our Fire at Will 3, which is going to let us smack anything in range with our beams, and it's going to be a nice little thing there. And we also have our Attack Pattern Beta 3, which is going to apply a pretty hefty debuff to foes. Then for our first of our Lieutenant Commander Universals, we have our Science seat, which we did a Science Team 1. That's going to recharge the shields a little bit, as well as purge subnucleonic-based debuffs. We have our hazard emitters for heal over time and debuff removal, such as board plasma fires. Then we have our Gravity Well 1, which is going to group things up very nice for us and be a nice little control power. Then for our second Lieutenant Commander Universal, we made that into an engineering seat. We went for a Engineering Team 1. This is going to heal our hull a bit, as well as purge Viral Matrix type powers from us, or effects I should say. Then we have our Oxta Sif. This is going to provide a bit of damage reduction and temporary health. Then we have our Emergency Power to Weapons 3, which is going to be free weapon power and a bit of a damage increase. Then finally for our Lieutenant seat, we have a Emergency Power to Engines 1, which is going to give us some extra engine power and be sort of a get the heck out of dodge button. Then finally we have our Reverse Shield Polarity, which is going to let us recharge our shields off of incoming damage in a pinch. Then for our traits, we'll round this out. We have our Redirected Armor Plating. It's going to be free defensive value for us. Beam Barrage for free beam damage. Elusive for free defensive value. Fleet Coordinator for free damage based on how many people are in the party, including yourself. Then we have Beam Barrage for our R&D crafting trait. We always like to assume you've leveled at least one crafting school, and in this case, we assume you've chosen beams. Grace Under Fire as the career-specific trait, because that's what the builder defaults to as engineers. If you're not an engineer, but you're still interested in using the build, swap in your own career-specific trait, and you're good to go. We have the Nanite Repair Matrix for a nice little heal when it royally hits the fan. Then we have Point Blank Shot, which increases energy damage the closer we are to the target. And then finally, to round it out just a little bit more, we have the Operative for some free crit chance and severity. For Starship traits, this is one of the instances in which we were able to use all 4 of our traits. We have the Regroup trait, which comes from the ship itself, and really quickly, I will show you guys the numbers on that trait, is it actually gives a minus 15% recharge time on Engineering and Temporal Operative Bridge Officer powers. So that will stack with the Engineering readiness we have in the skill tree. So that's going to be even further cooldown reduction on this little ship. Then we have Best Defense, which is going to give a whole healing effect along with the, or whole healing buff along with the normal effects of our attack patterns. Predictive Algorithms, which is going to be from our intel tree. It's going to give some accuracy and damage increases. And then Going the Extra Mile for Miracle Worker, which is going to be a... it's going to give us a nice little temporary HP when we heal somebody above 90% of their maximum hull. Then we have, for our space reps, we're now assuming Tier 6 reps have been taken into account. We assume that enough time has passed now that people can, or have reached their Tier 6s, or are just about to reach their Tier 6s. So we have our Advanced Target Systems for free severity, Precision for free critical hit chance, Aux Power Offense for some free damage increasing, and then we have Magnified Firepower for a static Category 2 damage bonus. And finally, for our active reps, we have Biomolecular Shield Gen. It's going to reduce the damage our shields take while we're inside it, as well as heal them a little bit faster. Deploy Sensor Interference Platform as a nice little "oh crap, I'm going to die" button. You can pop this power off, and it will poof up a little sensor platform that will last until it's either destroyed or until the duration runs out, whichever happens first, and it will taunt enemies to itself while it's active. Finally, we have Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity, which is a nice little AoE, physical damage and slow to foes, and then Quantum Singularity Manipulation to buff our science stats pretty dramatically for a short while, and also giving a temporary cloaking effect. To get more bang for your buck out of your anti-time, pop some exotic buffs first, crack off your gravity well, drop Quantum Singularity Manipulation, and then follow up with your anti-time, and you'll get a lot more bang for your buck that way. But anyways, that's what we have for our budget build. Questions, thoughts, comments?
Not really. I like the design. I like what you got set up for it. The cool thing with it, with current like devices and whatnot, we can go on the more defensive pattern, or just cheese it and say, here, have a the phased waveform beacon to have someone call in a bunch of her to help out and whatnot. But yeah, this I think this works out, and as well as to have the variant to go with instead of using the Soul defense set, using the Bejor set. They both work out. This would be the more defensive. The other one, you get in there and you scrape holes with everyone. But yeah, I think it works out either way. Very nice.
Yep. And I should make a note of this, that due to our Tier 6 discounts that came with our rep, this cut our costs in half compared to what they would have been previously. So you're looking at about 15,000 total dilithium investment into the ship, which is about 2 days of refining, assuming only one tune is refining, and you can have this build. But anyways, that's what we've got for that this evening. Still, like I say, kind of quiet on the bugs front. Not really much going on there at the moment. If you guys do see any bugs out there, especially any serious ones, do let us know, because I know I give these guys a hard time on air all the time, but in seriousness, we do want to get that fixed. We want to pass the info along to the devs. That way they know what's up and they're able to get a fix out for everybody. But coming up on the final segment of the evening, we have our RP Corner with Artie.
Okay, so first off, I would like to apologize everyone from after last episode, I said we were going to do the next session this past week. I wasn't able to due to pressing issues in real life. Sad to say, but for sure, this coming up Monday, we'll be carrying on the series where we left off. Blade and Timber, right before a enemy ship was firing a dark matter weapon at them, at the Allied fleet, and the station that they're trying to protect. So we'll figure out where that goes. I'm still working out on the map itself, seeing what will happen around the nearby spaces, since all we're currently worried about is the areas near the Trailus, Deep Space K7, Drozana, Nukara, and all that right now. From what we have on the map that I've provided, we're just moving everything closer, but I'm actually wondering what you guys think of what we can throw in to have a wrench in the machinery, basically. What can we use to stall all the success, basically? But no, yeah. Besides that, there's not much other news yet. For anything else RP wise, no, that's basically it. We're just getting ready for the next sit down game event, and we'll see how that goes.
Alrighty then. But definitely join us Monday for that, folks. We'll see what happens next with our Extragalactic invasion. And I guess play a game of what is Cruzan's accent going to be this time? Again. Which, to be fair, folks, I did not plan it that way. That's just kind of how it came out. But, all joking aside and everything, definitely join us for that and everything if you're somebody that enjoys that sort of stuff. And just have fun hanging out with us, and maybe join us for a little bit of it too if you'd like. But anyways, folks, that's what we've got for you this week. Not really a lot going on as we're prepping for the winter event, and with the new ship and everything coming along, definitely be sure to check that out. I know it's going to be fun, and this is going to be a free Tier 6 that people are going to have access to just by completing the event. It's going to be quite a bit of fun. But on our way out the door, a shout out to our good friends over at the Temporal Armada, a very cool bunch of people. Be sure to check their program out as well. They're a very cool bunch of people. Also a shout out to our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. The party is there. And they definitely have good music all the time. That's why we stream their stuff through our music bot here in the TeamSpeak. But anyways, if you've got any requests for budget builds, feel free to let us know. We do take requests for budget builds. Everything, let us know, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, this is the ship I've got, this is the budget level I'm at, and we'll hook you up with a build. If you've got, if you think you've got your gear and your setup in order, but it's your piloting that needs a little bit of work, get us a brief little video clip if you're piloting, and we'll be sure to offer you some tips and tricks on how to improve there. If you've got any bugs, feel free to let us know. We'll pass those along to the developers, and be sure that they're able to get some patches out for us. But lastly, if you've got any requests for the RP Corner, feel free to let Artie know, and he may just talk about your topic on air. But for now, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show, reminding you to have your tribbles spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.